Hello everybody, welcome back to Gracie and Thorn. Today I decided to do a Christmas themed video. Basically, I am going to go and look at Christmas traditions of sorts and make OCs based off of them. First, we are starting off with America. So just to give a basic thing of background, Christmas is a Christian holiday, as most know, and is celebrated on December 25th. It celebrates and marks the day Jesus was born to Mary. Americans have mixed and matched a lot of traditions, and a lot like our culture, it's different in different areas. So I sort of tried to stick to something that I think would relatively go everywhere, but I'm not exactly sure on that front. It is religious because it is a Christian holiday, but it's also recognized as a federal holiday, so it gives employees and workers a paid vacation day on December 25th. So for the American Christmas OC, give me a name in the comments. I started by making the outline. I struggled with the pose for a bit. I didn't show it on camera, but I decided and struggled on a bunch of different styles, poses, before I finally decided to look at that pose. I wanted to quickly get done with the pose so I can move on to the more based traditions areas. But the pose did sort of symbolize a tradition. My family and I would drive around neighborhoods and such and look at the lights. We would listen to Christmas music and drink hot chocolate as we raided every house that we looked at. It's honestly a very fun tradition of ours. For the clothing, I wanted to use the tradition of ugly Christmas sweaters, though it really turned into more of an ugly Christmas hoodie, sweatshirt sort of thing. I decided I was going to add a small decoration for it later. I drew limp hair, but honestly, it's not really a tradition, but I do absolutely nothing with my hair, and it's normally tangled, so I probably should have done a tangled hair, but I don't really do anything special on Christmas. Decorating with Christmas lights is a pretty big tradition as based on the other stories, so I struggled with deciding whether or not to add it to the OC. I decided not to in the end, but it was a very difficult decision. Another light-based tradition is going to see the big Christmas tree being lit up. I didn't get to add it to the OC, but it's not really something my family has done year after year, but we have done it a couple of times. For the hat, I went and looked at everything, and I had a ton of hat references, but really I wanted to go for a much more goofy hat than a nice serious hat, because America is a little bit more goofy than super serious. Another tradition is counting down to Christmas with an advent calendar, or I don't really know how to pronounce it, but basically it's where there is like a box sort of thing, and you open the little, I don't really know how to explain it, but you open the little pieces and you pick it up and you get prize for one day. You're only supposed to open one of the pieces a day, and it has like 4 weeks up to Christmas. This is not really something me and my family does, but it does seem like a very fun and interesting tradition of sorts. When I was still in public school, we did do this once for a gingerbread building contest, but a fun tradition is building a gingerbread house, and it's basically this gingerbread pieces, and you stack them up in a house shape with some white icing, and you decorate them with a bunch of candies. Me and my friends did it for public school once, and it was very fun, if not messy. Gingerbread does not taste good, so it's not exactly something you can eat. It's only for decorative purposes. And also, those things have probably been inside of the storage room for several years, so it probably wasn't the safest. My friends did try it though. I'm allergic, so I couldn't, but the gags of disgust built a pretty good description of that. Another tradition is Secret Santa. Also, whenever I was in public school, we did this once, or we did it every year, but it was difficult for people to get gifts from me because most of the time people turn to candy, and I can't have most candies, so I always ended up getting like a homemade card or something. But basically, Secret Santa is where you get a gift and you don't know who's giving you the gift, you only know who you're giving the gift to. It's honestly a pretty fun thing. I really enjoyed spying on people to find out what sort of gift they would like, especially whenever I would get things from people that I didn't know as well. That's the end of the American OC. We're gonna move on to the Irish version. So, on to the Irish one. I wanted to do a boy this time. I struggled a little bit with posing, so you can see me sort of go back and forth with the head, with the neck, or actually, apparently I didn't do that. This is a couple days after I originally drew this. But I wanted to do sort of a pleating pose for the first one. It did not really work out, so in a second you should see me sort of erase everything and pick a new pose. I'm going to start with the traditions that sort of go into this OC, and then move on to other traditions that I found when deciding what to do. So the first tradition I chose was the clothing. I read up on Irish traditions, and read up is a little bit of an exaggeration. I read like 4 articles. It's very interesting, and I do recommend that you go and check it out. But one of the big things that was included that I saw in almost every single article that I read was the midnight mass. If you aren't very religious, Mass is basically a big celebration while also teaching about God. Please let it be known that I don't go to church very often, so I've never been to Mass, so I sort of just went with Sunday best clothing. I tried to look up what exactly Mass was to give a better explanation, but I only got really detailed, super difficult articles, and most of the sites my computer wouldn't let me go on to, so I let that go. If somebody has a better description, please put it in the comments and I'll pin it. For the hat, I wanted it to truly be like the spirit of Ireland. It did not really end up that way, because I had looked up an Irish hat and it was just a bunch of green Christmas hats. So I'm moving on to the hair currently as I watch the video, and I went with super poofy hair because I really like drawing poofy hair. It's fun. And now I can talk a bit more about the posing. So I started with like a pleating pose, as you saw originally, but the tradition I wanted to base the posing off of was like a biscuit tin tradition. Basically, there's a container of biscuits, and there's like 2 layers of about 10 biscuits, and you're not allowed to go past the first layer until the container is completely done. So if your favorite biscuit is on the second layer, you have to wait until that first layer is done. So I wanted to sort of make my OC originally asking for it, but it ended up with the OC plotting to steal it. I'm now adding the hat, so y'all already sort of got an explanation for that. So I think I'm going to start drawing the biscuit in a second once I fix the hair, because I realized that hair would not work with a hat squishing it down. But basically, I looked back on the hair and realized that was not what the article was referring to. I basically drew a biscuit in the way that I've had biscuits before, aka the one time I've had a biscuit. So it's not exactly what the article meant. I will put a photo of the fixed version with an actual biscuit that they mint, like a cookie, really, if you're American, it's basically a cookie, which also apparently is different there too. But as I do line art, I will go over some other traditions. So one is the Christmas Day swim, which is where the families go down to beaches and swim in the chilly water the morning of Christmas. That sounded like a tradition I would never do, but it sounds like they're having fun, so can't really judge. Pantomimes, I will put the name in the video. I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But they are a musical comedy, and they were originally from the UK, but they just now started getting more popular in Ireland. Oh, and if you can hear talking, my mom is on a meeting, so. They're basically a musical comedy, probably pretty similar to, like, what we have in America, like, but I've never been to one. I probably should have watched a video, but they weren't included in the OC, so I decided not to. Another one is putting a candle in the window. From what I could understand, it's basically where it basically symbolizes the absent and missing relatives not being there to celebrate Christmas with you. Looks like I'm fixing to drop a biscuit. It's the wrong biscuit. It's not meant to be like that. Am I have no idea what I did. This was a couple days afterwards. Yep, they're on the biscuit. That's not what they meant. Oh, and I'm coloring the biscuit too. Oh, no, I'm coloring the hat. God, I probably should have done this recording the day of. Oh God, I'm talking so softly. Again, if you saw the earlier bit of the video, I'm talking about Christmas stuff in November. So it's not exactly something that I want my family to overhear. It used to be a running joke in our neighborhood that we would threaten the lives of people who put up their Christmas decorations in November, so this is a very dangerous game. Moving on, I decided to go with the basic colors, like the ones that are pretty standardized for Irish people in media. Another thing that I found was something called Little Christmas. It's January 6th. Basically throughout the year there's a ton of, or throughout the Christmas area of time, there's a ton of work to be done, and all of the women of the house have to do a lot of work, which this tradition was developed in a time where the women ran the house basically and men went to work. I think it's still known in some areas of Ireland, but it's not as well known as it used to be. But basically on January 6th is when all the Christmas stuff would go down and all the chores of the household would go to the men, and the women would get to go and have a lunch or something with their friends. I thought it was a very interesting story and tradition. So I decided to color it. I went with a slightly darker color than looking back on. I wish I didn't, but it looks okay in the final, so I of course colored the tie. That looks ridiculous. Green. I feel like that's just the Irish color, so I went with it a lot. I'm working on, actually, I think shadowing at this point. So as I shadow, I'm going to go and quickly find something. So I'll be back with more traditions, but I ran out. I sort of ran out of things to talk about, so I'm just going to sort of explain some of my thought process. I could go and find more myths, or not myths, more traditions, but I've been working on this for a couple days now, so, and I'm already going to have to go and do a fix, so I'm going to be lazy and just talk about shadowing. So I decided to do blue shadowing, which, looking back on it, I sort of wish I went with green. That would have probably fit with the theme a bit. Also, listening back on the recording, my voice goes so soft while talking about this, and it's so annoying. Like, whenever I try and get it past the normal void of speaking, it just won't go. See? God. Anyways, I shadowed the shirt and started working on sort of shadowing the rest of it. I thought the shirt was everything. It was a little bit too strong, so I fixed that. And I wanted to add like the little thing my dad will put them on before he goes to work, so I thought it would be a nice little detail. I'm quickly merging everything, then I planned to do some highlights, and I will be going and fixing the mistake of the biscuit. Woo! Dropped my recording. So tell me about some of the traditions that your family does. I will put up the fixed version in a second. Have a wonderful day. Here's the fixed biscuit. In Irish, I went with like an icy ring. Yeah, but here's the fixed thing. Bye!